Hi folks, this is a quick demo to show you an approach to fabric with the model. I already painted some of the face in just so that I could get going on the fabric. You can see I'm flicking in from the shadowed area up towards the light. This is not necessarily documenting every fold perfectly. I can come in with wet and soften out those edges. I can come in with some dense pigment, mix in a little bit of that dense pigment into the shadows and just let it mix as a wet in wet. The trick with doing fabric around the model is not only are you deciding on wet on dry or wet on wet, but you're also wanting to round the figure and to bring in color that works with the figure. So I can come in with the fabric color right into the hair and drop that in. I can also do a lift, but rounding the figure. You see I'm rounding the skull when I did that. There's a bow here that I can just sort of knock in without too much concern, as long as I round it and find where the stronger shadows are. Because the model is going to be the subject. The fabric just supports the model, unless you're a fashion illustrator, in which case the model supports the fabric. Now I'm coming in with another pass to get a sense of where the shadow is in the arm. This is just a pale sweater, so I'm coming in, the light's coming this way. I want to come around. This is all wet on dry, but I can come in here, find the shadows in the folds, just soften that out. Now I'm coming in with just water, and that'll soften out the folds as long as I'm using the brush to build the form. You don't need to document every last little moment. You just want to support the beauty of the model. Bring in a little extra color. In here, I want to get just a smidgen more color in the shirt that's underneath the sweater. And I don't even have to be all that specific about it, because after all, that's underneath the sweater. I can use it as an excuse to bounce some blue under there. So if I want to strengthen her jawline, if I want to put some more shadow into the eye socket, yeah, I can come around and find lots of little touches where that blue might be bouncing off the color below. On the other side, the shirt is more in shadow, so I might want to come in here, build up a little bit more. Just making very loose passes. This is wet on dry in here. There's some wet in there. I can come in with glazes That's just water that I threw in there. You were wondering when I was going to get around to the shadow underneath there. Okay. So you can see I'm trying to be loose. I'm trying to support what's going on with the model. I didn't know which colors I might use in the fabric, so I left the cell phone blank until the last minute, and now I can just touch in a little bit the color. I think I'm gonna have to do some serious renovating to this poor brush. I can come in later and work on the hand, but what I really want you to do is look at the fabric. That's what I really want you to look at today. And play with it. If you want, just throw a sweater over a chair and think about how that will create the form of the chair. You know, the sweater still reflects some of the figure. It still reflects where the arms are. But you really, really, really want to get the sense of the fluidity of the brushwork for the fabric. And I would like to make a big thank you shout out to the guys who were setting off fireworks outside my apartment for stopping while I did this video. So you can see how I'm building a very loose feel for the fabric. I'm not being too specific. I've just got it wrapped around her arm. So here's what I worked on a little bit more. And just to point out what I did in certain places, this is wet on dry with a little glaze of red inside. This is wet on dry, paler up here, darker here. This is wet on dry, and I dropped in extra water, and that created this nice soft bloom area. So you have a nice flow that feels like the fabric folds. In here, that's wet and wet. I dropped in dark colors into a very wet area. This over here is a lift. I've got a few areas, here's another, where I lifted an edge to soften it, to create a nice varied sense of texture, maybe a little bit heavier, so I got a feel of like this sweater this woman was wearing. Anyway, the main thing is seeing how the strokes are going around the form and how certain fabric folds, you want a nice transition from light into middle tone into dark. So, have fun with fabric. You can do it nice and loosely like Sargent, or you can do it tighter and control the folds even more to build up a stronger form.